So we have one more panel. Matt Duran is going to moderate the panel, and we have a few people from our recruiting tables who are going to come up here and do the panel. So we're going to do a bit of a switcheroo. What?
Are we on this now?
No. Okay. So this is just a quick panel where we're going to recap the day, and then you're going to have your chance to answer or ask any questions. But we're also going to do a survey pool at the end. So if you have not filled out your survey, we've got surveys up there. You fill them out. We'll be pulling from there prizes at the end of this panel. So do we have anyone who still needs to fill out a survey? Everyone's filled out a survey? Okay, great. I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
I always hate this tiny little microphone. That one doesn't work, and I don't want to sit down because I can't see everybody. Hey, everyone. My name is Matt Duran. I work at Tenable. I'm also co-organizer here. She's my boss back there for Higher Ground. It's all volunteer stuff, but we have a lot of fun doing it. Hope you guys enjoy it. As she said, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about what we saw today. Most of us have been in here all day, so we've got a good sense of what was said, some major themes. So we want to recap some of that if you didn't get a chance to see some of that. There will be talks available on video, but let's kind of get this stuff while it's fresh. Maybe there's some additional things that we want to say. We had real short talks today. So, but a little bit about my background. We'll all introduce ourselves and give a little background. I've been recruiting since 2001. It was the first job I had out of school. Staffing agency, have to make all these calls a day or you're not doing your job, even if it wasn't a good call. It's a straight shot into sales. It has nothing to do with recruiting. It's just get these jobs filled and then let's go make more money somewhere else. I didn't want to do that. So I went into the corporate side. I spent 9 years working at Geico where I did technical recruiting, led that team, also did national college recruiting for our leadership program. Then moved on to Tenable where I've been there for the last 4.5 years, focused mostly on the research and development. But I also manage the technical recruiting team as well. So that's consultants, ProServe, things like that. So I've been in and around BSides and all these other things for a little while. So I'm hopefully we have a good sense, and I think we're all that way. We have a good sense of some of the pain points you guys are seeing right now, and we're hopefully just going to be able to not fix them, but maybe make them a bit more aware for everybody else. So I'll start with Abby.
Hello, my name is Abby Mauk. I am the senior recruiter at ReliaQuest. We are an IT cybersecurity consulting firm headquartered in Tampa, Florida, and we have a security operations center there as well as here in Vegas. I've been recruiting for about 5 years total. I also started on the agency side. I agree with most comments on the agency side, but I wouldn't be at ReliaQuest without my experience there. So learned a lot and definitely set me up for success here. We recruit all technical and operational positions, all corporate, hires come through myself and my team. So yeah, a little bit about me.
Ladies first. All right, first. All right.
Okay, you're going to do me last here. Jen Haverman. I currently work for Deloitte. I am not a recruiter. I'm actually a client relationship executive, which sounds far from cyber information security, but it's actually related. Bear with me. I started out as a technologist. I have about 15 years in government and another 15 as a defense contractor. Still maintain my cyber certifications, CISP, CEH, all of those, keep those active. The things that, are we going into the things that we liked of the day? Not yet, okay.
Quick
But this is, let's see, so this is my second B-Sides in Vegas, but my 15th year coming out here between combinations of Black Hat and DEF CON.
Hello guys, my name is Jose Leon. I am the Human Resources Director for Honeywell. I have been in the HR arena for the past 20 years, working for high-tech companies mainly, like Compaq Computer, Hewlett-Packard, EDS, Schneider Electric, and as I said, currently Honeywell. I am responsible for the cyber division globally. I am not a recruiter, but I am recruiting a recruiter now, because certainly this market is growing very, very fast. We are starving for qualified talent, and I wanted to get involved myself in this event to get to know you guys. So very excited to be here, and that's me. I am Mexican, in case you were wondering, so you know where the accent is coming from.
Great. All right. So I think in talking with each of the panelists here today, I think the biggest thing that we're going to take away from today's talks, and we even heard a little bit more of it in the last one, is really about taking ownership of your career. So I know, Jose, you wanted to start with some of this stuff. You really, when I talked to you about that, you were really into it. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on some of the messages we heard today about taking ownership of your career, and what do you think is some of the top things people should do to take that step?
As part of my job, I constantly connect with the employees. Now the employees are my internal customers, and for me, it is very important to get their voice. And some of the frequent asked questions that I receive from the customers is what the company, in this case Honeywell, previously Schneider, and previously Hewlett-Packard, everybody asks the same question. What the company is doing to take my career to the next step. So after receiving or getting this question many times, I have concluded that it is not the company that is responsible to manage your career, or my career. It is our responsibility, the responsibility of every one of us as individuals, to manage our career. If you don't know what you want to do when you grow up, nobody is going to answer that question. So if you really want to do something with your career, first you need to know what you want to achieve. Then the company, a good company, has to be a facilitator of that career. So when I receive the question from the employees, then I ask the question back. What do you want to do? And then let's talk how I can help you to get there. But to me, the most important part is to be clear that every one of us as employees are the ultimate owners of our destiny, and we need to hold ourselves accountable for that.
Abby?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I think that there are some companies that do succession planning, career path planning a little bit better than others, but if we don't know what direction you want to go, what you want to do, or what you want to be when you grow up, sometimes that doesn't come to light, sometimes it's not facilitated, but if you speak up and let someone know, hey, this is what I'm interested in, I was thinking about looking at this certification, are we going to have any positions that I'll utilize that in, et cetera, and help facilitate that conversation with your manager, it could go a lot further than you probably think. You're probably not the only one, and then that may be a project that you get involved in, is helping build out that career path plan, helping build out that succession planning for your entire company. So it's about speaking up and taking initiative.
So this is a couple of folks have asked me about the certifications and training and education and how they should keep themselves current. And I've talked to a lot of employees, having been a hiring manager, and they've come to me frustrated. Maybe our company at the time has run out of funding for training. Sometimes that gets cut halfway through the year. But again, I tell them nobody's going to care about your career more than you do. How many folks are certified, have a technical certification? Right? Do you ever want to take that test again? Do you want to really jeopardize by not going to something? I've found all kinds, when my companies that I've worked for in the past have run out of money or not been able to send me to training, I figure out a way. There's always some sort of creative way to continue to develop yourself and keep yourself current. No company, no recruiter, you shouldn't put that in the hands of anyone except yourself. It's great if those companies will fund you. It's great if an agency will fund you, whomever you work for. But really keeping on top of that, owning your professional development, that's key. And it will never do you wrong either. They can't, when you change jobs, that experience goes with you. It stays with you. Anything you learn, it's not ever subtracted from you. It's not a benefit that you ever lose. So I think that is something that resonated with me through the day.
So I want to get to the audience quickly. I mean, we don't have to do all these points we have on here. From the group we have here, anybody want to share anything related to ownership of your career, things we've talked about so far? Gentlemen holding his hand up here, would love to hear it.
I have a question for each of the individuals on the panel. As an individual, what do you look for me to build my own personal brand that will attract you to me as a candidate?
Anybody want to take it?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So personal brand. So I look for people that are really, and this might sound fluffy, but I really look for people that are self-motivated. If I ask you, what do you do to develop yourself? What do you do to keep current? I want to know that you're reading, all the professional journals that you can possibly read. I want to know that you're looking at the websites for the latest vulnerabilities or whatever it happens to be for your particular domain or specialty, right? I want to see that. And I also want to look at maybe some network. Usually it's part of your network, and you look at the people on the periphery that you're connecting with. I look for somebody who's trying to build their network and trying to improve and also trying to be helpful in the community. What else are you doing besides your job? Because you aren't your job. So are you involved in ISSA or some other professional organization, ISC Squared, whatever it happens to be? BSides, are you showing up and volunteering at one of those conferences, putting in your time? I look for all of those things because that speaks more to a person's integrity and character and how they may fit in with my team.
Yeah, so I 100% agree with everything that she just said, so I'll touch on something a little bit different, and it was actually touched on in the panel just before us. It does go both ways. So the same as you are receiving maybe blast messages from recruiters, when you go to apply for a job, I want to know that you did your homework on our company and this specific position. So writing a custom message in your application or in your objective in your resume goes a long way as well, as opposed to you're applying to every security job out there and you're just looking for anything. I think that goes a long way as well, and it does help, the recruiter, because there are so many applicants a day that aren't qualified. It helps the recruiter, it stands out, and it helps them get back to you faster, I think, just because it's different than just attaching your resume.
Can I ask you a clarifying question? When you say you want to improve your social brand, or what do we look for in it, do you want to be found, or are you looking for it as a way to highlight on a resume?
Well, I haven't really put myself out there, but more to be found, because I have a number of certifications, other things. So when I decide to make the switch and actually go and do a search, what's going to help attract the better recruiters? It'll probably attract the others as well, because some of them do keyword searches, whatever. But what are you looking for me to have on my profile or on my website or whatever, so that you can say, okay, this guy is the person, or this gal is the individual that I want to maybe approach and see if they're a right fit. Because I can't document everything I've done. 20 years of experience is 20 years of experience, right?
However, let me tell you something. Obviously, to have presence in social media, to have presence in LinkedIn is a must. No? So you have to be there, otherwise you are not going to be there. And most of the people show in their profile a bunch of tasks, of activities that they have done in their career. However, what I look, and I think most of the companies look as well, is for results. I am interested to know what you have done for your companies, what you have done in your previous positions. I want to know specific outcomes. I want to know quantitative results of your previous positions, something that I can get evidence from and that can help me to predict your future performance. To me, that's something very easy to, at some point, to assess at first sight, and that will take my attention or not. I am not interested to read a job description with just a list of tasks.
And one thing I'll add on that, you got to be careful about, if you want to be the radical, that's fine. You know, if you want to comment and not be mean about it, but, speak your mind and be that person that is challenging what the norm is, that's cool. You just got to know that that's going to limit some things for you. There's some companies that don't like that kind of stuff, but then there's a ton of more that do. And not for the negative reasons, but really because we want somebody that can think for themselves, and maybe they are trying to, I'm going to use a buzzword bingo, disrupt the environment in which they're in. But But the more point I guess I want to say is if you are doing other things out there, I think somebody talked about, I think it was Johnny earlier, talked about putting yourself out in social situations, getting out in public, getting out with peers and other folks that you can learn from and meet, and maybe you'll find that person that's looking for exactly you. But going out there and showing that you're part of this stuff can actually help you with, okay, here's where I am. I may not have everything, but here's what I'm talking about. Here's what I'm interested in. Here's some things that I'm interested in you knowing about me from a public standpoint. And then that will help when they do the search, because we're going to look at your profiles no matter what it is. We're looking at Facebook. I mean, there's a whole group that just sources on Facebook. That's fine. But we're going to look at that stuff, and we're going to say, hey, he's got some good stuff. Maybe we should talk to him.
We have a question back here. All right. Jen, you had some.
Actually, I was going to say, if you're looking for a way to start yourself down that quantitative path of like showing eminence, go through whatever you have out there, and where it says responsible for, get rid of that. That is the biggest pet peeve. People put responsible for on their resumes and on their LinkedIn. Go with some action verbs that start showing what you've done. You created, you authored, you maintained, and then that starts pushing you towards putting that quantitative data into your resume, into your LinkedIn. Start showing some of those results. Might still be nebulous, and you might not want to put too much out there, depending on how you feel about social media, but at least gives the recruiters, I think, and hiring managers a little bit better idea of what you're really doing.
And real quick to add to that, so if you're looking to be found for the right opportunity, because maybe you're not actively looking and there is the right opportunity out there that would allow you to make a move or inspire you to make a move, I agree with blanketed messages and recruiters doing keyword searches and just pinging you because there were keywords. But truth of the matter is, I'm not going to find you if you don't have some of these words on your profile. And it may not be what you're doing now. Maybe it's what you want to be doing. And that's what I'm looking for. So there has to be some presence and some sort of, I guess, your profile has to be filled out in some way, shape, or form in some fashion, whether it's on Monster with your whole resume or on LinkedIn with a couple of things. Maybe not even your jobs listed, but what you're interested in. There's a section for interests on LinkedIn. So, recruiters aren't going to find you without keywords. Just make sure that what you're putting out there is the keywords that you want them to find.
So we have a question back here.
It was a follow-up question to the other one, and I think, Jose, you might have covered this, but I'm curious on your advice to folks that more are broader and less depth, so non-specialists. Let's say I'm not a firewall engineer. I can be your firewall engineer. I would advise you against that. But more the jack of all trades folks that start bridging those gaps or have many years or decades of experience where they might be not a specialist anymore, but can cover more broad areas. Any advice to those folks of how to convey either their worth or pique your interest in, I am not a specialist anymore. I am now more of a broader based person. Anything to pique your interest in those types of folks?
So I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because there has been a lot of kind of specialty talk. And just for my company specifically, we do look for jack of all trades or people who are not necessarily specialists, because that shows to me that you're open to learning new things, you like learning new things, and you can grasp new concepts. So for that, your profile is going to speak to me anyway, but I think it's important that in that instance, you have learned what you liked and what you haven't liked by that time. So your objective or your body of your email with your application, that has to express to me what you're looking for. That would be my main question to you is, you've done all these things, and if you've enjoyed them all, great, but there's got to be some things that you haven't liked to do, or that you didn't enjoy, or that wasn't, something that you want to pursue. So instead of maybe, if you aren't sure, what you want to be still when you grow up, however many years of experience you have, at least know what you don't want to do, and then I can maybe help you find that right fit.
Yeah, I think another part of that is to understanding the types of companies that and what they're looking for, and knowing that there's a target list that you see yourself doing. I've seen these jobs other places. I know people that have these types of things, and then if you're applying to a job, and I'm not sure if you're applying or being found, but if you're applying to the firewall engineer job, you're going to be expected to be a firewall engineer, not everything else. So it's really knowing exactly what you want to do, and knowing that there's an opportunity at a particular company for you. Because again, you're just going to be wasting your time not getting that response back that you talked about earlier. Questions?
Another piece of maybe no-brainer advice is if you go target the job you want. So if you think about like the hacker methodology, right? The first thing you do is intelligence gathering on a target, right? You figure out where you want to work, or maybe some similar companies that do that type of work. Go look at their job openings. Print out and or save them off and do comparisons of the keywords, of the types of skills and certifications that they're looking for. And then you can use that almost as a composite to start developing your skill set towards the job that you want.
To comment on that real quick as well, if you did do your research on the company or companies that you're interested in, and you go on their websites and you don't see a position that you're interested in, I may still reach out to you if you do apply for one of those openings, just to, have my contact information, but it's probably listed elsewhere. So if you take the time just to find my email address outside of a job posting that's listed and just say, hey, I did some research on your company. The culture looks great. I like what you guys are doing in terms of innovation, but none of your job postings are really speaking to me. Maybe we can just set up a conversation and see what you have coming down the line. That would go a long way, as opposed to what they were talking about before, applying to the wrong position. Then it looks, your credibility is maybe a little bit questioned. Something to consider.
So another question, for those of us that have developed pretty extensive networks through our career, how do you guys feel about us contacting through our career back into the hiring manager before you even see our resume?
Well, you're going to get a bunch of different answers here, I think.
I'm not a recruiter, but I would say as a hiring manager, I don't mind. I have, in the past, I've had good relationships with my recruiters, so I would say, oh, look, a referral. Hey, recruiting team, I got this. This person reached out to me. I've done some initial conversation, which is completely legal in the hiring process, and just to find out what you're interested in. And then I would loop in my recruiter and get that process going on the HR side to make sure that, you can work for the company and all of those things.
I think it can go several ways. So, obviously, if you're trying to get in touch with someone and you're passionate about the company and the position, I don't mind if you go to my boss or whoever else to get in touch with someone there or to talk to them about the hiring process. I think that there are some people that may speak with the recruiter at the company and maybe get an answer that they weren't expecting or that they didn't want to hear, and then try to go around the recruiter. So that's obviously a different can of worms. But ultimately, if you're passionate about getting into the company for ReliaQuest specifically, we don't care how you get in touch with us. Just, as long as we get you into the right hands and we can get you through the interview process, and that's great.
I want to hear from Jose on this one, because you guys, I know Honeywell's got some tough things on that.
I was about to say that I am not a recruiter, but I am a hiring manager. And as a hiring manager, I do appreciate to find proactive candidates. If I got a contact from the candidate directly, raising the facts of why I am being approached and why the person is interested in the position, if well structured, certainly that person is going to take my attention. And certainly that's the people that I would like to get in my organization. So to me, that's very welcome. But again, that might bring some conflict of interest with the recruiter that you are partnering with. So I would understand that. But from hiring manager perspective, I would strongly encourage you to do it.
And I guess building on that too, from the last panel, if you have a good recruiter, you shouldn't have to go around them.
Well, one of the things I'll share, so there's a lot of, some companies are like, oh God, no, we want everything to come through HR, right? There's tracking and metrics and things like that. But if you talk to any manager out there that's read any recent books on how to hire and recruit and things like that, a lot of them are actually being given metrics to say, if you have an opening, you better have a couple of people that you can bring in here and bring to the recruiter. And if you have a decent enough recruiting staff and they're okay with that, and they don't have this ego that says, I have to find everyone, then that makes a great relationship with that manager, which encourages things like that. So I like it. Go for it. If you can't find me, I'm sure you can find somebody else. We don't make it very hard to find ourselves, but if you know somebody, they can get you in the door. I say go for it.
That's what networking is about. So exercise your networking.
Yeah.
There are other things we wanted to get to. I know we're running super late here. Do we have time for one more? Or
Just one more quick
no? All right. Anybody got something quick? Nothing. Going.
Any hiring managers?
I already learned about those folks.
So I heard somebody ask maybe the question earlier about how to better work with recruiters. And as a hiring manager and person of the company, I was trying to figure that out myself. So there were a couple of things that I did. One, I did whiteboard, so I liked that recommendation up here. I whiteboarded because my company had different contracts all over the place with different clients, whether that was NSA, DISA, Cyber Command. My recruiters didn't know who did what in cyber and who was responsible for what and how that all worked. So I whiteboarded it for them, and they were like, oh, okay, so I see why I wouldn't hire this type of person for this contract versus, this type of person. That helped. And then I also made them a big keyword/related word list where I had a portfolio of programs, and I listed out the programs, and here are the skill sets that I would want for each one of these programs, the types of information security or cyber people that I would need depending on the program. And here's some related keywords that you might see that also mean something very similar. So trying to help and fine-tune, mostly technologists, I think, in the audience, I was tuning my sensors. I was actually tuning them almost like network sensors. I would push this information out, and then I would get those resumes back from them and take a look, and I'd be like, oh, like this one. Or I'd see something else and say, well, I don't really want this, and here's why. And fine-tuning those sensors. And we had a great working relationship. We'd have, lunches over this topic, and it really helped. It helped both end goals, the recruiter and the hiring manager, as well as getting the right candidates in the door.
I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Thanks for the questions. Thanks to our panelists for everything. Did a great job.